There is a story that changed World War II, so perfectly executed that even today, 80 years later, military historians cannot believe it actually happened. It was called Operation Mincemeat Plan, a corpse dressed as a British officer carrying fake secrets to fool the Nazis. If you haven't subscribed yet, do it now. Let's continue. But what you are about to discover is not in any textbook, because this story involves something nobody expected, a corpse that became a secret weapon. This is it. The Enigma code is broken. We have the advantage, but we must act swiftly and in absolute secrecy.
July 1943. World War II was in its fourth year. The Allies had just won in North Africa. Now came the most critical moment of the war. They needed to invade southern Europe. The target was Sicily, a strategic island controlled by Nazi Germany and Fascist Italy. But there was one massive problem. German intelligence was sophisticated. They had broken Allied codes. They knew about the invasion plans. If Hitler discovered the real target was Sicily, he would move his armies there. Thousands of Allied soldiers would die on those beaches. The invasion would fail. So British military intelligence made a radical decision. They would use deception, psychological warfare at its highest level.
Now comes the operation. A plan so audacious it would fool Hitler himself. It started with a dead man.
His name was Glyndwr Michael. Born in 1909, he was a homeless man living on the streets of London. Nobody knew him. Nobody cared about him. He had no family, no job, no future. He was completely invisible to society. But in 1943, in the midst of World War II, his body would become the most valuable asset in British military intelligence. What happened next would become the greatest deception in military history. A dead man would save thousands of lives. A forgotten man would become a hero nobody would ever know.
The stage was set. Now the deception begins. Operation Mincemeat!
The plan was as brilliant as it was macabre. Operation Mincemeat. Two British intelligence officers, Charles Cholmondeley and Ewan Montague, needed a body. They took Glyndwr Michael's corpse and transformed him. They gave him a name, Major William Martin. They gave him a rank, a uniform, and even a fiancée named Pam. They filled his pockets with theater tickets, a receipt for a diamond ring, and a letter from his father. But the most important item was a leather briefcase chained to his wrist, containing top-secret documents. Documents that suggested the Allies would invade Greece, not Sicily. Then they put the Major in a canister of dry ice and loaded him onto a submarine. His mission had finally begun.
The body has been found. Now the deception reaches Hitler's desk. The game has begun.
The submarine HMS Seraph surfaced in the dead of night. Officers gently released the Major into the cold waters off the Spanish coast. The tide carried the secret toward the shore. A fisherman found the body, and soon the briefcase was on Hitler's desk. The Führer fell for the trap. He moved his elite panzer divisions to Greece, leaving Sicily's gates wide open. When the Allies struck, the German defenses were empty. Thousands of lives were saved by a man who never existed. Glyndwr Michael, the homeless man with no family, had become the hero who won the war. The deception was complete.
The mission was a success, but the story is far from over. Subscribe now and stay with us for the final revelation.
The world knew him as Major Martin, but he was a masterpiece of deception. British intelligence filled his pockets with fake love letters, a receipt for a diamond ring, and even overdue bank notices to give the ghost a soul. A young Ian Fleming, who would later create James Bond, watched from the shadows as his darkest plot unfolded in the halls of the Admiralty. The body traveled in a steel canister of dry ice aboard the submarine HMS Seraph, a secret weapon that never fired a shot. When he was released into the Atlantic, the fate of Europe floated with him. For 50 years, the truth was buried in a nameless grave in Spain, hidden under layers of top-secret files. It wasn't until 1996 that a historian finally uncovered the man behind the mask. He wasn't a soldier. He was Glyndwr Michael, a forgotten man who died alone in a warehouse. Today, his real name is carved in stone, proving that the most invisible lives can change the course of empires. The war ended, but the legend of the man who never was will live forever.
The world's greatest lie. The true hero was a beggar.
Glyndwr Michael didn't die for his country. He died because he was hungry. Homeless and forgotten in the streets of London, he swallowed rat poison in a desperate moment of despair. He had no family to claim him, no friends to mourn him. But in a strange twist of fate, his lonely death became the spark that saved thousands of lives. The British government didn't just use a body. They gave a purpose to a life that society had discarded. But for 50 years, his real name was a state secret, buried under the legend of Major Martin.
The man who never was finally given a name.
The deception worked better than anyone in London had dared to dream. Hitler personally ordered the panzer divisions to Greece, leaving Sicily's back door wide open. The Major Martin papers were so convincing that the German High Command fell for every word, moving their elite troops away from the real landing zones. The stage was set. The dead man had successfully cleared the path for the living. When the Allies finally hit the beaches of Sicily, the expected bloodbath never happened. The resistance was thin, and the chaos in the German ranks was absolute. Thousands of British and American soldiers lived to see the sunrise because of a man who never saw his own. Operation Mincemeat didn't just win a battle, it shortened the war in Europe. And at the center of it all, in a quiet grave in Huelva, Glyndwr Michael lay in silence. For decades, the world hailed Major Martin as the man who never was. Books were written and movies were made, but the identity of the body remained a state secret, locked away in the shadows of the MI5 archives. But history has a way of demanding the truth. In 1996, the name Glyndwr Michael finally emerged from the darkness. The homeless man from Wales was no longer a ghost, he was a hero. In 1998, the Commonwealth War Graves Commission finally added his real name to his headstone. A small inscription was added. Glyndwr Michael served as Major William Martin. A man who died for lack of bread ended up saving the world from a tyrant.
Thanks for watching. Please subscribe for more hidden history.